What's poppin', y'all? The diss track is dead, according to Pusha T of all people. Now, he's put out this quote, which I found it really interesting, and I'm going to read it to you guys first, and then we're going to go through whether it is dead, it was dead, or when it died, or if it was ever even alive. He says, rap diss tracks are, quote, dead to him and don't, quote, hold the same weight as they used to. Back in the day, to me, I felt like it could be career ending. Now, it's not. It doesn't hold as much weight. You still get another shot at it, it seems like. It's kind of dead to me. It's the ransom of what a diss track used to bring. There was a clear winner. Somebody would really bow out, and then that's it. The last man standing. Now it's just a whole bunch of noise. Even after we find winners, it's still noise. And it's like, man, then what's it for? This is interesting because Pusha T just rolled out his most recent album by going on a press tour dissing Travis Scott, of all people. And I get not liking Travis Scott, to be fair, if you're a Pusha T. However, the way that he dissed was like, really? You're punching down on what is essentially the equivalent, rap-wise, of like you're 6'8", and the kid is 5'5". It's like a middle school player when it comes to the pedigree that we hold Pusha T to. So we got to get that out of the way, right? And of course, was Travis Scott harmed by it whatsoever? Absolutely not. He even like threw some jabs or some shots at Pusha T while he was performing at venues that Pusha T will never see in his lifetime. And that's not to diss Pusha T, because I did enjoy the Clips album, and I enjoy the majority of Pusha T's catalog. Frankly, one of my favorite albums by Pusha T is Darkest Before Dawn. Will we ever get the King Push album? I don't know. Well, if we look at history, right, when it comes down to the diss record, the last diss battle that Pusha T was in, that was with Drake, and we could say that Pusha T won there. But why did Pusha T win? Was it really the track? Like, how many bars off of Story of Adidon can you guys really remember? How many of them? Not too many. I mean, we could remember more from Back to Back, which was a completely separate beef. But what he did was, he dropped news that nobody knew, which was that, this guy had a son, and he wasn't telling anybody. And after that, it's like, okay, cool. Pusha T won that beef. He came out with a great album after that, and that was that. But that wasn't going to take him to the next level, because Pusha T's music just doesn't have that widespread mainstream appeal that a Drake has. But if we look at history, and I want to know when Pusha T was talking about, it doesn't have the same power it once did, because when we think of diss tracks that destroyed a person's career or just beefs, we think of 50 Cent and Ja Rule, right? Like 50 Cent absolutely obliterated Ja Rule. Like 50 Cent turned Ja Rule into a punchline. Depending on when you were born, you may see Ja Rule as, that Ja Rule really had hits. Or you might not even recognize a Ja Rule hit and think, that's the guy that just is known for losing to 50, right? That's how bad it was. And part of that is not just the music, but it was 50 Cent taking every single opportunity to put Ja Rule back in the dirt, and Ja Rule being incapable of coming back with another hit or multiple hits thereafter. Keep in mind, the industry was also a different place back then. You couldn't just get on, you could get on through merit, but radio, gatekeepers, magazines, all of these other things that came into play had a stronghold on the perception of an artist, as opposed to now where, if somebody throws out a song and it's a banger and it catches steam, there's not a single person that can prevent the majority of people from enjoying that song. Like, for example, Kodak Black, Super Gremlin. That song caught fire and everybody's like, this song is a banger. It didn't matter if somebody at, Hot 97. I don't know why I'm just randomly thinking of a radio station. But just think of any random radio station, any editor, any whoever was like, nah, we don't really mess with this. Or let's take an even better example, XXXTentacion, right? Somebody like him who they were actively trying to shut down because they were like, this person's a menace. He has these crazy accusations. His music and his movement was hitting so hard, you couldn't stop it. But that's not a beef thing. So we're going to go back to beef. We look at Nicki Minaj versus Remy Ma. That was in 2017. That was, 8 years ago? And Remy Ma, she cooked on that one. We could say Remy Ma won that beef. Where is Remy Ma right now in comparison to Nicki Minaj? Nowhere. So there's an example of that not being career ending whatsoever. Eminem versus MGK. Now, This is a good one. This is a contentious one. This is 2018. MGK, people do say that MGK got ran out of hip hop after this diss track, but to be fair, MGK only got bigger after this, and he dropped some of the best music of his career. Granted, I only started listening to MGK after the Rap Devil diss track, after the back and forth with Eminem. But you look at a Jay-Z, right? Let's even circle further back. You look at a Jay-Z versus Nas. Nas clearly won. I mean, it became slang that you got ethered means you got destroyed. So some people felt like Takeover was a better song, but we know Nas won. Yet, what happened? Jay-Z has been more successful business-wise. Well, I think Nas is doing something with the casinos. We don't really care about that, to be frank. But Jay-Z has succeeded commercially more. Now, if we look at the past 6 to 8 years, or just the past 6 to 8 years, yeah, I would say so, around that time, with Nas linking up with Hit Boy, I would say Nas has had a career resurgence that Jay-Z has not had. Now, Jay-Z's last drop was 444. We're not going to forget about the Carters, which went nowhere fast. Like, that was supposed to be the biggest thing ever. It did not hit like that. So Nas has had a second life to his career. But Jay-Z has consistently performed better than Nas. That did not destroy his career whatsoever. And that was over 20 years ago. You had 50 versus Jadakiss. A lot of people felt like Jadakiss lyrically was cooking 50, but this was Get Rich or Die Trying era, and people were just like, yo, 50's got the hits right now. He's scorching hot. And 50 was not harmed by that beef. A lot of people don't even really remember the 50 versus Jadakiss beef, unless they were, young during that time or were around during that time listening to hip hop actively. So that's several beefs right there that didn't really harm. And also, if you think of Ice Cube versus Common, Ice Cube won that beef, and then Common, he still had success later on when he dropped that album B, and a bunch of other stuff that happened after that. He had good success. So really, it has never harmed a artist to lose. It's never ended somebody's career. A diss track it's never happened, except even a Meek Mill. Now, Meek Mill I would say the closest was Meek Mill. And had Meek Mill not gone to jail, as unfortunate as it is that he popped that wheelie, and as unjust as the situation was for him to get thrown back in jail for like a year and a half, 2 years, if that hadn't happened and Meek Mill was just free after that, that probably would have been one of the first times in hip-hop history that a diss track ended the person's rap career. Because the thing that revived Meek Mill's rap career was not only, it was favorability within hip-hop first, because people were like, oh, yeah, the whole beef happened and all of that, but this is bigger than the beef. This is, justice reform, all of that other stuff. So Meek began to be seen as a victim, and people started to care about Meek Mill more. So when Meek gets out, Drake not only retires that song, which is a banger song, like performance-wise, we wish we could still be hearing back to back. But he links up with Meek, and then they drop a banger of a song, which is one of Meek's biggest songs ever. I think that song it accounts for 50% or more of the sales on his championship album, and that is Igniting the Flame. Drake comes back with him, and they got that song going. And then after that, Meek Mill's, he's been smooth sailing. But had that, I don't think Meek Mill would have been fine if that didn't happen. It would have been lights out. And of course, he could have performed old songs, but he would have been several notches below where he is at right now. So other than that, Pusha T, I don't even think he would want to give Drake that type of credit. What is he talking about? Can he expand on that? And this is where when we get interviews like this, a lot of them are glaze fests, because they're not going to push back and be like, well, actually, what beefs ended somebody's career? And how are you going to end Travis Scott's career? The majority of people that listen to Travis Scott's music are not listening to Pusha T's music. They're not listening to the clips. And some people will be like, I listen to both. Yeah, you're the exception, all right? Come on now. Look at a stadium of Travis Scott fans. You're telling me that group of people, at least 50% of them, are also listening to the clips? No, they probably don't even, they probably have not even listened to the catalog of Travis Scott. They probably go to Travis Scott Essentials, listen to that, and then show up to the show. They're just trying to turn up. I mean, Travis Scott is performing in countries where people aren't even really speaking English like that. And you don't really need to speak English to yell fiend 25 times. And that's part of why Travis Scott is so entertaining. Now, if you don't speak English, or if English is your second language, how hard is it to consume a Clips album? I mean, it's hard enough to consume a Clips album for people that are primarily English speakers, because like people aren't really trying to go through the lyrics like that. And that's fine. And they've managed to have success despite that. But it just illustrates my point a little bit better. So I'd like to know what your guys' thoughts on that are. Okay, can you give me some instances where a diss track just ended a person's career? Like, we need some big examples, because the way Pusha T made it seem was like, yo, diss tracks were getting people out of here. And I don't think that was ever the case. But yeah, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see you on the next one.